I think it can be very easy to start to feel like just a number on Instagram when you're seeing so many other people creating content. But if you can surprise your ideal client and let her know that you see her, I think that that's really important and time well spent as well.
Hey, my feel good friends. I hope your week is going swimmingly. I just made my partner Brett watch Finding Nemo for the first time this week. Yeah, I know. He's really not a Disney dude or a kids movie person in general, which is completely opposite of my family, who grew up spending an entire week camping in Disney World every freaking year from kindergarten to 7th or 8th grade. He was not as enamored with Finding Nemo as I wanted him to be, but whatever. It's just something we're going to have to agree to disagree on, you know? But that said, I have totally had Dory's Just Keep Swimming song stuck in my head this entire week. And honestly, I think it's really fitting. This year, there's been a lot of rolling with the punches. A lot of continuing to keep moving forward, even through uncertainty and fear. It's been a year of trial and awakening, and we're only halfway through it. But hey, if I can promise you anything, it's that while it might not seem like it right now, I have this gut feeling that we're all going to come out of this stronger as individuals and brands. But in the meantime, my friends, we've got to just keep swimming. And that's why I'm so excited to share this week's interview with you. Earlier this week, actually, I was able to chat with Gina Moccio of Babe Crafted. And I'll be honest with you, Feel Gooders, I was originally planning to air Gina's episode way into the future, like July or even August. But after we chatted, I just felt like our conversation was super helpful and relevant to what's going on in the world right now. And I really didn't want to deprive you of Gina's wisdom if that's what you need to hear right now. So I decided to bump up this episode because, hey, I'm the boss and I can do what I want, you know? Gina is a super sweet and genuine lady, and we get real in our convo. She owns this really rad membership site for ladypreneurs called Babe Crafted, which I joined after this interview, by the way. And today we chat about how to step up as a leader in a diverse group of awesome women and how to own your mistakes if and when you make them. We also get into the social media side of her biz, and she gives us super helpful tips for how to use Instagram to build a loyal community of women who trust you. And as a bonus, she shares her best tips for showing up on live video, which if you're camera shy like me, I know you're going to soak those up. Today's conversation is gold. So before we get started, I'd love to encourage you to share this episode with someone else who needs to hear it. We are a crew of about 144 listeners strong, my feel-gooders, and I would love your help in continuing to grow our awesome crew of rad, down-to-earth entrepreneurs like yourself. Please feel free to share this episode to your Instagram stories so that others can find us as well. And if you do, make sure you tag me at Feel Good Social and Gina at Babe Crafted so that we can see and spread the love right back to you, my friend. All right, now let's dive into it. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for joining us, lady.
Hey, Kinsey. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
Oh, yes. I am so excited. I already introduced you a little bit in the intro, but I would love to hear from your own words. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Of course. So my name is Gina Moccio, and I'm based in Tampa, Florida. I run a business called Babe Crafted. It is a national women's organization that helps women entrepreneurs build confidence, relationships, and their brand online so they can reach and resonate with their ideal client. And we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary this week, so it is big celebration mode over here.
Oh, yes. Congratulations. I am so excited. I think I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I just love the energy that you bring to the platform and all of those things. And so when we connected, what was it, last week, a couple of weeks ago? It was just so awesome. Gina reached out to me on Instagram, you guys, through a voice message after we just kind of started following each other and commenting on each other's posts and stuff. And it was just so great to, meet the maker. And I love how open and honest you were.
Thanks, girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, like she's based in Colorado. Like, look at all these adventures that she has, all this like authentic love for social media. Cause I feel like social media is like such a big topic. So it was really awesome that we had gotten connected on Instagram. I sent that voice message, and now here we are enjoying this podcast recording. And now I have an awesome friend in Vail, Colorado.
Yeah, you do. Okay, so I am so intrigued. Like, tell us a little bit about how the idea for Babe Crafted came to you and kind of just how you got started and everything.
Yeah. So when I started brainstorming for the business 4 years ago, so it took me, approximately a year to, flesh out my idea, get some trademarks, start working on a website, logo, all of that fun stuff. But what originally inspired me to start the company is that at the time there were so many great stories coming out about women and women entrepreneurs and like really creative women, but they were mostly coming out of New York and Chicago and LA. And I thought that was awesome. But I really thought like, well, there are some women here in Tampa Bay that are completely badass, and I would love to celebrate their stories, So at the time, there were so few avenues to have your story be highlighted, especially as a woman entrepreneur. You could talk about it on your own personal Instagram, but they're just, beyond that, it was really hard to kind of showcase not only what you're doing, but what other women, your peers are doing. So I wanted to help highlight those women and then also help them better promote their business. A lot of entrepreneurs are really great at the thing they do. So they're a photographer or a bookkeeper or a florist, but it's really hard to talk about yourself, especially on Instagram or in a newsletter. So I wanted to help bridge that gap and help women feel more comfortable being the face of their brand.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So you mentioned that you changed the name of your business in year 2-ish. How'd that come around?
Yeah. So originally I had the name of my membership was Babe Crafted and my overall business was Boss Babe Club. But I just decided that instead of having 2 separate brands, I wanted to have my whole business called Babe Crafted and use the name Boss Babe Club for other aspects of my business. But I just found like managing 2 separate Instagrams and separate Facebook pages, it was just really running me ragged.
Yeah.
And I wanted, I really thought that the name Babe Crafted was such a unique name. And I thought it really communicated us in the way that I wanted to talk about what we were doing, because it was something really different. It wasn't something you could just kind of find anywhere. So it was a big struggle at the time, because I was like, am I really going to do this to myself? Like, am I really going to get a new set of logos and do this rebrand and make all these changes? But it needed to happen. So, here we are. And I am really glad that I decided to do it then, rather than like waiting too long, because the longer you wait to make a big change, the more layers there are to make that switch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yes. I love the name Babe Crafted. I think that you're so right. It's different than just kind of, what you hear a lot of people using with the Boss Babe stuff and all of that. It's definitely like a little bit of a different twist. And I also think that it just I love those names that just completely represent like who you are. Like you say it sticks out in your mind. And also like, I know exactly what your business is just from the name itself in like such a unique way. I think it's great. I think that was a great move, girl.
Thank you. And, and that was the goal. And I feel like it's so hard to to choose a name that is going to have some staying power,
Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand, I think it's important to do your best to choose a name that is truly going to represent what you want to create. But then I also want you to know that it's okay, like by you, I mean, just anyone listening, to know that it's okay to make changes and shift and pivot, because nobody is on their plan A.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. And we were chatting. Gina has a podcast, you guys, and she was interviewing me on her podcast earlier. And we were chatting, and I shared that I changed my name in the first year of business as well. And it was exactly the same thing. My business went from the idea behind my business kind of changed in the first year. And I really just felt the need to change my name into something that would be recognizable and that really more so represented my brand, then I made the shift. And my mentor actually, I reached out to my mentor. I was like, I'm thinking about changing my business name. What do you think? And she's like, if you're going to do it now. And so I'm so glad that you said that as well, because yeah, just if it feels right, you might as well do it sooner rather than later. And it's completely okay to not have it all figured out and make pivots and make changes. And who knows, I might change my name again in the future. And if it is, it's okay.
It's possible. But, you have to not be so hard on yourself and just say like, okay, well, here's what we're doing now, and just move forward. I think we were talking about Enneagrams earlier too.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned you're a 7 and I'm a 3. And I am so concerned about like reputation. My reputation to me is just everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want to be the kind of person that like, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, So if I put something out there and then I change my mind later, like it kind of like hurts my heart a little bit, but
oh yeah,
I'm human, and, changes happen along the way. So it's just kind of it's a practice. Just got to
yeah, for sure. It's like grappling with that. Like, I completely get that. And of course, I think, being a 3 as well, it's nice to see someone who struggles with that, especially, be able to do that and realize and make the decision, like, this isn't comfortable. This isn't like, I've struggled with that too in my business, girl, where it's like, I want to be right. I want to be perfect. I want to look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that nothing is always set in stone, and that we're allowed to just kind of embrace the journey and embrace the process. And it doesn't always look like what we want it to look like.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about Babe Crafted? Like, what does your membership look like? What do you do? What kind of women do you work with? All the things.
Yeah, of course. So most of our members are very experienced entrepreneurs. They are experts in their field. So it's really awesome to get all these women together to share resources, validation, feedback. It's just really important to just remember that you're not alone. And our members are really great at rallying for each other. So, and what that looks like, of course, we have a very active Facebook group. We have a beautiful membership portal. I use Kajabi, recently made a switch to Kajabi, and I'm just so grateful because it is such a robust, easy to use platform. So we have all of our past workshop replays in there, all of our downloads, our visibility tips and resources, relationship building tips and resources. So it's just like a really great hub for all that Babe Crafted stands for, and then we have virtual events, in-person workshops for our local members. I mentioned earlier that we're national, so we have members in 8 states. So I'm really excited to say, not only do we have a really prominent presence and have made a lot of waves in our 3 years in Tampa Bay, but we also have members in Georgia, Massachusetts, Michigan, Arizona, California, Indiana, Arkansas.
Man, just keep growing. Keep growing it. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love what you're doing. And I think it's so important. When you were reaching out to me, you're like, it's for those people who feel like they need a business best friend. And I was like, raising my hand over here. That is me. I want all the best friends. And so I love those people who can bring like-minded women together and like empower them together. It's so great.
Thank you. Your enthusiasm is like so nice and so contagious, Kinsey.
Girl, that's the 7.
Yeah. And I think it's just important that I'm continuing to like niche down what it is we offer. Like I originally, when I first started the business, I wanted to cater to all women entrepreneurs, anyone who, even if you hadn't started a business yet, but really I'm at this point where we're looking for women who have an established business, are looking to continue to sharpen their skills and continue to meet like-minded women and grow their network, who understand the value of a real network of women who are there to rally for you, that you can support, that can support you, and are okay with trying new things like live video and blogging. I know blogging doesn't seem new, but to a lot of entrepreneurs, it is new to them. So I want all these things to feel less scary and feel approachable, because they're great tools to be able to tell your story and talk to your ideal client.
Yes. I absolutely love that, lady. I'm so all for what you're doing, and I think it's wonderful. So I do have a few listeners who actually have either created memberships or are interested in creating memberships like for their business and their audience and all that. Can you share any tips when it comes to, I guess, creating and managing a membership site?
Most definitely. So first and foremost, for those that have not started their membership but are working on it, I would say to try out the membership platforms before you commit to them. I think it's really important to spend some time in those platforms to make sure that they are truly what you're looking for. So in the past, in a platform called Member Planet, which really seemed like it was going to do all the things I needed, but they just were not able to keep adding new features in the way that my business was growing. So I quickly outgrew it. And I wasn't sure if Kajabi was the right fit for me. I had heard great things about Thinkific and Teachable and all these awesome platforms. I decided to just invest some time and money in committing to Thinkific and Kajabi for at least a month. Start building some content in there, see how it actually works. I also did a round of testing with a couple of members to see what they thought about it, and ultimately went with Kajabi. But I just would not have been able to make that decision if I hadn't decided I'm just going to pay the money. We're going to spend some time and we're going to really dive into it, because it's really hard to run your business, add new members, create wonderful content if at the core of your business, your platform isn't working for you. So that's been a huge thorn in my side. So I don't want it to be a thorn in anyone else's side.
Yes. Oh man, I know. I have heard such great things about Kajabi. And I think I was telling you, I have an online social media course, and I cannot wait to transfer that into Kajabi. I've heard so many good things. So I'm glad you brought that up. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be kind of a leader of this like membership group, this community of women? How do you lead these women, and how do you make them feel like they're part of a community, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And it's something that can be helpful whether you're just starting out in a membership or you have an existing membership, because I think that, there's always room for improvement. There's always ways to get better. It's so important that your members feel seen and heard, because that's why they're joining a membership. Otherwise, they could just buy a course and do it themselves, and that's fine. But the membership is for that interaction, for that community. So I think that it's important for the leader of the community to want to know the names of their members and and what their business goals are and what their challenges are. So I make it a point to really get to know all of my members. Obviously, I do discovery calls with potential members, but so I get to know them there. And I think that's really helpful. But when someone joins our membership, they fill out a new member survey, and I get to know why they joined, what their biggest challenge is right now, what their goal is for this year, because, it's not a one size fits all experience. And I want to be able to keep an eye out on opportunities for them. If I see something that's a great fit for, say, Brooke of B Studios or, Ashley of It Media, I want to be able to send it their way. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just important to take the time to get to know your members even before they join. But, being really active in your Facebook group or whatever platform you use, making sure that your members feel like you're actually listening, I think is time well spent.
Yeah.
And real quick, Kinsey, if you don't mind, I want to also share that it's okay that you don't always do everything right, because you won't, because you're human. Yeah. So I just want to share a quick story, especially with where we are right now in the current racial landscape in living in America.
Definitely.
So, in a perfect world, for International Women's Day and for Black History Month and for all of these wonderful real life holidays, as well as things that we celebrate on social media, Babe Crafted would be talking about these things. But I did experience some overload earlier this year, and I just was not able to do the big Women's Day programming that we normally offer. And I knew that Black History Month was right behind International Women's Day. And I was like, you know what? To be totally honest, I'm so overloaded. I just don't have the bandwidth to create new content. I'm not sure how to talk about Black History Month. I don't want my members who are, incredible Black women to feel like I am like showcasing them in the wrong light. So I just kind of thought, well, you know what? I will make a point to do this in the future. But my silence on that was actually way louder than it would have been if I had promoted in a way that maybe wasn't the best, if that makes sense. Like I think it's better to say something imperfectly than it is to not say anything at all. And I'm super fortunate that one of my members sent me an email. She felt comfortable saying like, look, I was really disappointed that you didn't celebrate your Black members for Black History Month. And I was like, you know what? You were right. I'm really sorry. Like this is why, but I'm going to make this up to you. Like, this is not the standard that I want to set. So I just want to be really upfront about the fact that I'm not perfect. No one is perfect, but it's just so important if you set up that trust with your members, then they can tell you not only when things are going great, but when things could be better. So I had a chance to collaborate with her on an Instagram Live. I created a video that featured each of our members, all of our incredible Black members, celebrate them and their businesses, their accomplishments. So I think it's just important to enjoy the positive feedback, but enjoy the negative, the critical feedback too, and just pivot, get better.
Yes. Wow. Gina, I'm so glad that you brought that up, and it is super, super relevant always, and especially in this past couple of weeks and everything like that. And I think that says a lot about you, exactly what you're saying, like creating a space, a safe space where conversations can be real and they can happen, and accepting criticism as, constructive and all of the things. Just, it says a lot that your member was able to come to you and just honestly tell you, this was disappointing. And it says a lot that you were able to then collaborate with her and try to rectify in any way you can. But it's so true, like, especially right now with everything that's been happening. I mean, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 2nd of June. And it's like, we have to be able to just do things because, yeah, exactly. Your silence is saying more than if you would actually say something in like an imperfect way. We have to be willing to put ourselves on the line. And like you were saying, with being an Enneagram 3, and wanting to do things correctly and wanting to uphold your reputation and all those things, that is a fear that is holding so many of us back. And that's like not okay, Thank you so much for sharing that story, lady. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, girl. It was such a embarrassing moment for me. At that moment I was sitting in my office and I got that email and I just thought like, oh my goodness, like how did I let this happen? But instead of like ruminating on feeling negative, I was like, look, I'm going to call my member right now. We're going to talk about this. We're going to get some things going. And I think it's just important to, just find a way to move forward, and be okay with apologizing, and if you have that trust, then your members will see you as the human being that you are, because you have done that for them too.
Yes.
Of course, this is a very specific example. It's not like your typical like, oh, Tuesday, like Facebook group engagement post, but I think it's just important to, because these are the kinds of stories that I would want to hear about if I was going to start a membership, so I always like to say like, here's some real talk, like, here you go.
Yes, no, and that is what we are all about here on the Feel Good Social Podcast, girl. Yeah. We are all about keeping it real and embracing the fact that exactly we don't really know how could we know how to do everything perfectly. That doesn't exist. There's no way that we would know how to move forward in the right way all the time. And like, what is right and what is wrong? What is enough? You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to these social issues. And so it's like, sometimes you just have to do and have humility. Yeah.
100%. And I liked what you said. Like, I mean, no one handed you like here's how to run social media accounts like a boss handbook when you started your business. You know, like you had to write a book. So, I mean, we are all learning.
Yeah. And I don't know if you feel like this, but in my first year of business, I've been like trying to learn all the things. And like one of the biggest lessons I've learned through sponging up information from all over the internet and everywhere is like, you have to take what people teach you and take what people are saying and hold it in your own self and realize, how can I use this information? Like, is this information relevant to me? How can I take the information they're giving me and use it in my business, kind of thing? Like, there's no, I don't believe in like a one size fits all roadmap.
Yeah.
This lady that I interviewed one time, I love this idea. She said, we need to approach a business. We need to give ourselves, I'm like blanking on what it's called now. The roadside bumpers, you know what I mean? I don't know. I forget what she says. What?
Like signs, you mean?
No, like
guardrails?
Yes, guardrails. Okay, so this woman, Sophia Sunwoo, she says that we need to give ourselves guardrails in our business because it's not going, I like to think of it as bumpers in a bowling alley, though. That's why I always say bumpers, because I'm a really bad bowler, so that's why. But
guilty as charged.
Yes,
you're a bad bowler here as well.
I know. I'm like, would use the bumpers all day, you know what I mean? And so it's like, your business isn't going to be a straight line, you know, don't feel like it needs to be a straight line. We need to give ourselves bumpers. We need to have an idea of our business, of where we're going, so that we stay on track enough. But we're allowed to veer. We're allowed to veer this way and that way, as long as we kind of have this end goal in mind.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, speaking of guardrails, and then it's like success not being a straight line. I mean, when I had no idea, like when I had started working in Member Planet, that I was going to need to, you know, within the next year move to a new platform. Like, you didn't know you were going to be doing a name change within your first year of business. So,
for sure.
But I mean, you have to start somewhere. And as you get started and you start taking action, you get to know your clients and your industry, like then you can really start refining what you're meant to be.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that was completely my experience too in this first year of business. I'm sure it's just going to keep continuing. You know, that's the best lesson, is just learning to lean into this messy middle, and like the messy middle is going to just continue. I don't really expect it to end, and but that's okay.
Yeah, totally. And there's a really wonderful woman named Leona. You might have come across her on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is like the Indie Roller. So it's like the indie business roller coaster is where that name came from.
Oh, cool.
I had interviewed her on my podcast. She lives in like Kent, England, I think. 90% sure that's true. Sorry if it's not, Leona. She had talked about the messy middle, and I had never heard that term before. And I was like, man, I'm like, what a great way to summarize how things feel sometimes, you know? And maybe the messy middle can also be beautiful and fun and nice too, as well as messy.
Yes. Yeah. Learning how to embrace the mess a little bit, and just, it's like we were talking about, I think, in the last interview, where sometimes things happen that you can't control. Sometimes you have to let go of your ideas that you have because someone comes in with a different idea that they want more, and that's okay. And it's never really going to not be messy, I think. And so that's everything in entrepreneurship, is figuring out, can I embrace the mess? Because if you can't, then maybe entrepreneurship isn't the best thing sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that saying that everyone's heard, you know, if you can't stand the heat and get out of the kitchen, it's like, well, it's going to be hot. I mean, I hope that you I hope you brought like a little baby fan or something for like
a little spray bottle fan.
Yeah,
like.
because that's just what it's gonna be like.
Oh man, I love visualizing things. That's perfect. That's gonna make me remember that forever now. I love it. Oh, Gina, thank you so much for being so open about that, lady. And I think that that's exactly it. Like, people need to hear these things, you know? That's kind of how I approach social media as well. That's why I don't pretend to love Instagram all the time and all these things, because then people have these ideas of, oh, I should start a membership. It's great. Yeah, it's great, but it's hard sometimes. And being a leader for these people and accepting the fact that, yeah, it's not always going to be right and perfect all the time, and you have to keep learning. I'm so grateful for you being open about that.
Thanks, girl. And I appreciate you giving me a chance to share, because like there are not always opportunities to share where your stories will be received, you know? I mean, but I think mistakes are a really great way to learn, especially if you don't have to make them. If someone can tell you out there,
Yeah.
you can avoid it. Because if someone comes along and they're like, you know what, here's what I did everything right. It was all fine. I mean, what can you really learn from that story? You know, and it's interesting what you had said about like starting a membership. Starting a membership is a completely possible, tangible thing if that is your path and that's what you want to do. You know, something that's really great about a membership is that you do have that monthly recurring income. But if a membership is not your cup of tea, don't feel like you have to do it, because it's not like one and done where you just set it up and you're like, okay, see you later. No, like it takes daily, weekly. It takes a lot of energy and conversation and going through feedback, and it's a lot of relationships. So for whoever has not started one and wants to, like, make sure that you really want to do that before you go for it. But if that's what you want, you know, feel free to reach out. I would love to send you some good vibes.
Yes, I love it. I know. Yeah, for sure. I am glad you said that as well. I actually, when I started my course, it's kind of like a monthly planning of your social media content course. And so I was like, oh, this would be a great membership, because, you know, we have to plan our content every month. And I kind of sat with it and I started thinking about what that would involve. And I was like, I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's a huge commitment, and it's a lot of relationship building. Exactly. You said, an ongoing and all that stuff. And so I admire what you do. I am not ready for what you do yet, girl. And I'm just so happy you're there to do it.
Thank you. And, you know, honestly, I mean, the course that you just finished launching, like, cue the confetti cannons for you. So phenomenal. I mean, I think that would make a really great membership, because, you know, social media is constantly changing. And even though the idea of captions and creating content, you know, there is a framework you can learn. I think ongoing support and having a community of people who are also working on continuing to like keep their messaging fresh would be really helpful. So if that is ever something you want to do, I think you'll totally rock at it. But I also understand if you're like, you know what, I'm just still not sure it's for me. That's fine.
Yes, yeah, for sure, lady. I appreciate that. Yeah, we will see. I'm trying to keep the future open, you know?
Yeah.
But let's actually talk about social media a little bit, because I would love to know. I'm so interested. I think you do such a great job on Instagram. Like, your account is just so full of life and bright and beautiful. And I think you do such a great job featuring all your members. I loved when you reached out to me through the voice message. That was wonderful. So I'd love to just know how you have kind of used social media and Instagram in your business, and how you've used it to like grow your membership.
Of course. And thanks for your kind words. It's so awesome to hear that, because we can all be really critical of ourselves, you know, like I'm in, and on the outside, I'm a really like positive, self-motivated, like silver linings all the way kind of person. But I still have my days where, you know, I just need to like work through that criticism.
Oh yeah.
It's coming from internally, you know? So I think it's important to I wanted to preface what I'm about to say by saying like, it's a process for me too. But as far as like social media for Babe Crafted, it's been a huge tool, a huge part of how we have grown our business, like how I've grown my audience. I think like what has really helped me is that, so my past life, I did social media and PR for a restaurant group in town. And I was able to like really dive into video content, live video. As soon as Facebook Live was available, like that's what we were doing. Periscope was a thing for a hot minute, but then it was all like Instagram Live and Facebook Live. So not being afraid of live video and not being afraid of video content was a huge like tool I had in my toolkit that I could use. So that was a big deal. And then also, making it a priority to not be shy about sharing my content. I think a lot of the times people think like, oh, I shared it once, like that's it, like now on to the next. But no, like I'm continuing to like repurpose that existing content, sharing it across platforms. So that's been also like a really helpful thing. And also like the example of reaching out via like voice message, like surprise people, I think it can be very easy to start to feel like just a number on Instagram when you're seeing so many other people creating content. But if you can surprise your ideal client and let her know that you see her, I think that's really important and time well spent as well.
Yeah, for sure. I love encouraging like my audience and seeing other people do this, making social media more human. Like there are way too many robots and trolls and all the people on the platform who just are kind of either acting like robots if they're not real robots and all that stuff. And so anything you can do to like really give that human element, for sure, that is so important. It makes people, it's something that people remember. Like it makes you stick out in their mind,
Totally. And I think it's just important to remember that like everyone is trying to figure this out. Like everyone is navigating this, but don't get defeated. Keep showing up. Like show up on IG stories every day. Like whether it's a quick little live video or a recorded video and then you post it, of course, or it's an existing image you have that you add some text and a question to. Just don't get discouraged. It's just so important. Like keep showing up because that's the only way you're going to be able to make headway.
Yes, consistency is key. I love it. Okay, so you are awesome on video. I've seen you on video and I want you to give me any tips that you have for doing that because I actually just showed up 5 days in a row Instagram Live last week and I'm so camera shy. Like I want to be so confident. And actually by day 5, I was feeling like a little spicier, but what tips do you have for showing up on camera? Because I do feel like that's important, but especially video, face to camera content, people can tell when you're nervous, and so like your energy really does come across. And so sometimes I have trouble recommending that people use it. You give me your tips, girl. So I want to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say, I think that is awesome that you showed up on Instagram Live last week. It's so hard. So I give you so many props for saying like, I'm going to do it and we'll just see what happens. You have to if you want to get better, you have to get started. There's no way to start at level 10. So I give myself a pep talk before I go live. Like I every time I remind myself, like, I can do this. I've got something to say. It's going to be fun. Like, let's see who comes on. So that pep talk is really important. I'll also, depending on if it's just like a quick little update or if it's something like educational, I'll map out my bullet points and I'll just have them next to me so that I can use them as a guide. Because it's really easy to get off track and then you're like, wait a minute, where am I? Like, what's happening? And you just So first tip was give yourself a pep talk. Second tip is map out your bullet points. And then third tip is don't worry about if you're going to mess up. Know that it's not a matter of if, it's when. Like, it will happen. It's okay. So just come up with a strategy on moving through it. If you want to just say like, oh, excuse me, or, oh, I lost my train of thought, like that'll give you a second to like breathe and then pick it back up. Mine is, oh my gosh, I'm so excited right now. I love that. Give myself a second to breathe before I continue talking.
Yes. Oh man, that is one of my biggest things whenever I go live. And actually by day 5, I was getting a little better at that, but I'm so glad you brought up you will make a mistake. And so come up with like a plan for dealing with the mistake, because I just started talking so fast and I would like run out of breath and I'd be like, oh, okay, I ran out of breath. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, like, show people that you're a human and that you need to breathe.
Yeah, you need to breathe. You don't want to be passing out on Instagram Live on accident or anything like that. Oh man, that was such great tips, and I love it. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I do think that live video, just like video in general, face to camera, that can do so much to like really build a connection with your audience on social media. Do you feel like you have built stronger relationships with your audience through doing that?
100%. And that's something that people will say to me when I meet them. You know, they feel like that they already know me. They really appreciate that I'm willing to show up on live video. I especially love when they say, like, I saw your live video and then I did one. You know, like, I love when it encourages others to do it for their business as well. So it's one thing for you to tell someone about who you are. It's another thing in like a caption. It's another thing for them to get to hear your words and your voice and like look you in the eye. Even though they're not standing in front of you, they still get to connect with you in that way. So I understand feeling nervous. I understand being camera shy. I understand it feeling very cringy and intimidating. And I think it's important to do it anyway. And the way to do that is to come up with your little plan and say, like, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. We can do this. Here's what's going to happen if I mess up, when I mess up, and just go ahead and hit that live button.
Yes. I love it. And I love that your go-to response is, I'm so excited right now. That's like perfect. It's so awesome. And a lot of times people, I listen to this other lady who has a podcast. She's awesome. Her podcast is called The It Factor, but basically she is kind of like, she's like a public speaking coach. But she's also just kind of like a speaking coach in general, like almost like a networking coach, like speaking more eloquently with people in like a better way to have them like understand you and all that stuff, which I love language, so I geek out about it. But I was listening to one of her podcasts and she was just talking about the filler words that we use, you know, the and and it was a really interesting episode because it was kind of the psychology behind it and stuff. But she was saying how we are so uncomfortable with silences, but like silences are necessary. Breaths are necessary for people to really soak in what you're saying a lot of times. And I find myself getting really nervous on the lives and talking way too fast and going through the information way too quickly. And so it's kind of like a comforting thing to be like, Kinsey, you need to take a breath and pause or else your people aren't going to hear you, you know?
Yeah. Well, what a great interview that must have been, because I know that everyone can relate to this idea of feeling like they say too much or too much or whatever, you know, whatever you do to like transition from one sentence to another, or just give yourself that bit of time to take a breath before you start talking again. You know, like our brain just needs a second to like settle.
I know you start realizing when you say it.
Yeah, it happens to everyone, but I would love to personally like find a way to get better at just leaving a bit of silence as I take a breath rather than saying So everyone struggles with it. It is a thing.
It is a thing for sure. Yeah. And it was actually really interesting. I can send it to you later if you want. Yeah. the podcast. But because she was talking about how not all filler words are bad necessarily. Sometimes we use them as like, I want to say literary devices, but it's not really literally speech devices to help people comprehend things more, I guess, or to make people not feel as bad. Sometimes, like if you want to say no to going to a party or something and say like, oh, I'll think about it or something like that, you know? And so I just thought that was super interesting. But okay, back on topic a little bit. Can you give us like, where have you seen the most success on Instagram specifically? If anyone was to do kind of one thing today to really improve their engagement on their account?
Yeah, well, I'd say the number one thing would be, and this is assuming that if you're posting consistently, if you are trying to show up every day in Instagram stories, if you are taking Kinsey's advice and creating captivating captions,
Love it.
a call to action in your captions, that's kind of assuming that you're doing some of those things. If you're not, please do them. But the thing that I want to share is it's really important to spend time on other people's content. So not only should you be engaging with the people who are liking your posts and following you, but go to other people who are, ideal clients and people that you enjoy following and engage with their content. Because not only does it make them feel great and, continue to bridge the connection between the two of you, but other people will also see your comments and will go over to your page as well. So I think it's important to spend quality time on your feed, but also go to other people's and share some love and start conversations.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. I call it targeted outreach in my course, but in reality, I call it Insta stalking in a good way, though, But I think that is so important. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And yeah, it's great for the algorithm. It's great for other people. It's great for the person that you're engaging with. It's great for you. It's great in all the ways. So many wins.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And I'm glad that you mentioned algorithm because I feel like I personally don't pay attention to the algorithm. And even if I wanted to, it's not like I have it printed out in front of me. Like no one's going to tell me what it is. So it's just important to remember that content and accounts are prioritized that are engaging with others, because they want people to spend time on their platform. So if you are creating content that people like and you are engaging with other people's content, you're going to be seen in a really great light in the eyes of the platform.
Yep. Yeah. The algorithm is a computer, and so it needs to figure out how it can measure value, and it's totally through engagement and valuable content. You're so right. I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Gina. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Any other tips or thoughts that you'd like to share with my audience right now?
Yeah, I would love to share that. Well, real quick, if I could share that we're launching a campaign in a few weeks to have members in every U.S. state. So to keep an eye out for that campaign, our founding state members campaign. But also, I just want listeners to remember that they've got this. It's really important to know that you're not alone. And I feel like you know that you're not alone, but you do need that reminder. Because oftentimes in the challenges that you face, it can feel really isolating, especially if you don't have a set of business besties to go to and say, this is happening to me. Has it happened to you? So just remember that you can do this. And I just want listeners to know that they have the things that they need to be able to build the business and life of their dreams.
I love it. I love it so much. You are so inspiring, Gina, and I'm so glad that we connected. Can you let my audience know where they can find out more about you and connect with you and just fall in love with Babe Crafted like I have?
Yes, thank you so much. So I have a website and blog at babecrafted.com. And then you can find us on Instagram at babecrafted. Please don't be shy about sending me a voice memo saying, hey girl, hey.
Yes, do it. I love it. Yeah, everyone needs to send Gina a voice memo. We'll see how many people are taking action from this podcast. I love it. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us, Gina. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kinsey. You're a rock star, and I really appreciate your time today.
How wonderful is Gina, you guys? Like I said, I actually joined Babe Crafted after we finished this interview. All it took was for Gina to say biz besties, and I was like, yes, please, sign me up. So if you're interested in joining me and Gina and her wonderful community, definitely check out the program at babecrafted.com. And once again, I want to thank you for tuning in every week, my friend. You know how much I appreciate you, and supporting you and making a difference in your life and business is really what makes this all worth it for me. I know this year has been really overwhelming and uncertain and exhausting and all the feels, but honestly, I believe we'll come out on the other side of this as stronger people and brands. And I'm always here for you along the way. Have a great week. I'll catch you next Thursday. Thank Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.